Hey, good day. Roger Martin here from Billings, Montana, and we're looking at some research information from the Bitcoin 2020 Masterclass. Um, I think Bitcoin has a long ways to go coming back, but I think when it does, and probably at the end of this year, 2021, 2022, I think it's going to knock things out of the park. We'll soon see.
Hi, I'm Matt Warder, Director of Research here at Money Map Press. And I want to talk to you today about the most controversial investment of the past 100 years. I'm talking about Bitcoin. Now, over the last year, we've heard every single angle about the Bitcoin story. Some people say it's the salvation of the global economy. Other people say it's a complete scam. With all that noise, it's virtually impossible for the average investor to know what to do and what to think. So today, I'm here to tell you to forget everything you've ever heard about Bitcoin because I'm going to lay out one simple fact. In 2010, Bitcoin was trading for 0.3 of a penny. That means you could have bought 100 Bitcoin for just 30 cents. In 2019, Bitcoin was trading for $13,800. That means the same 30 cents you put in Bitcoin in 2010 was worth.
Now let's back up because he's not giving you all the figures. In 2018, the end of 2018, I believe, it was at its height just below 20,000. 20,000. So you'd have made more than that if you'd have held on it and sold that money on the end of 2018.
Worth $1.38 million just 9 years later. For 30 cents, that's for a quarter and a nickel, you could have been a millionaire. For $3, the price of a cup of coffee, you could have made over $10 million. For the cost of dinner out with your significant other, you could have made over $250 million. And for $1,500 invested in Bitcoin in 2010, you would have been number 76 on Forbes' list of the 100 richest billionaires in America. And that's assuming you held on through Bitcoin's so-called crash. If you sold at Bitcoin's all-time high, that same $1,500 investment would have made you the 46th richest billionaire in America. No other investment in the history of the world has offered that kind of return. Actually, the only investment that comes close are other cryptocurrencies. Because since Bitcoin first launched, Litecoin returned 33,709%. Ripple returned 136,944%. Ethereum returned 340,258%. So $200 into each of those coins would have returned $1,021,000. There can be no dispute of the millionaire-making potential cryptocurrencies enjoyed for the last decade. The only question is what happens now. So to answer that, we've invited our Director of Technology and Venture Capital Research, Michael Robinson. Michael, good to have you.
Great to be with you again, Matt.
Now, Michael, you're one of the earliest backers of Bitcoin I know. You were on networks like Fox Business and CNBC in 2013 talking about Bitcoin. You were one of the first people I know to have held a cryptocurrency summit over 6 years ago where over 100,000 people were welcome to attend. You laid out simple strategies that could have netted phenomenal 25,351% gains at the peak, turning a $10,000 investment into more than $2.5 million. Needless to say, people who listened to you could have made a fortune. So I have one question for you, Michael. If Bitcoin really is the greatest investment in human history and all these numbers are real and people really could have turned $1,500 into billions, then why don't we see more crypto billionaires walking around?
You know, Matt, the answer is really very simple. People did walk away making a fortune. It just wasn't billions. Now, you need to understand that in 2010, Bitcoin was trading for 0.3 of a penny. Now, that's 100 Bitcoin for just 30 cents. Back then, almost no one believed in it. The first wave of people to get rich off Bitcoin were young, broke students. Let's take Steve Johnson, for example. He started buying Bitcoin when it was at 20 cents. He later sold his Bitcoin when it hit $258, Matt. Now, he cashed out with more than $30 million in profit. Or take Jack Snyder, a recent college graduate. He started investing in Bitcoin when it was at just 15 cents, Matt. And a few short years later, Jack made over $25 million in profit. Or how about Eric Green? He started investing in Bitcoin when he was 13 years old.
13 is pretty impressive.
It really is. Listen, when I was 13 years old, I was changing light bulbs for $1 an hour. And Matt, by the time he was 19, Eric Green was a millionaire. Now, as you can see, none of these young men became actual billionaires.
I bet they'd wish they'd hung on a little longer, right?
Yeah, well, you can look at it that way. You can look back on it and say, boy, it was dumb for them to sell early. But you have to understand, these kids were broke and barely scraping by. So they're going to cash out and take their millions now instead of waiting to become billionaires. So that was the first wave of Bitcoin millionaires. Then came the second wave. These were mostly tech geeks in Silicon Valley who understood the technological potential of Bitcoin, like Mike Adams. He was working in the tech industry in the mid-2010s and slowly accumulated Bitcoin. By 2017, Mike was a millionaire and was able to quit his full-time job.
And that's what it's all about, right? Being financially secure enough that you never have to work a day in your life.
That's exactly right, Matt. Now, another man, Matt Wright, started his own tech company. Then, in 2015, an investor offered to buy his company for 300 Bitcoin, which was worth about $300 per Bitcoin at the time. Matt took the offer, and by 2017, he amassed more than $2.5 million in Bitcoin. Another man, Sam Abraham, actually got his first job at a Bitcoin exchange website. Instead of accepting his salary in US dollars, he accepted it in Bitcoin. By 2017, he had made millions. He then started his own crypto hedge fund, which he grew to over $300 million in assets, Matt.
Right, the second wave of Bitcoin millionaires.
That's exactly right. But here's the good news, Matt. Thanks to a special set of circumstances that has never existed before, Bitcoin is about to enter into its third wave, and we are already seeing the very beginnings of it. Bitcoin has spiked more than 334% in 2019. And mark my words, Matt, it's just getting started. And once it does, it's going to create a whole new group of millionaires.
So, Michael, what's happening in 2020 that's causing that?
Well, Matt, there are several things that are going on all at the same time in 2020 that have never existed before. The first thing is the massive amount of money flowing into Bitcoin securities. For example, take
massive amounts of money flowing into Bitcoin securities. Jeez.
Bitcoin futures contracts. Bitcoin futures is a red-hot market. In March of 2019, there were more than 1.8 billion in Bitcoin futures contracts. 1 month later, that number shot up to $5.5 billion.
Wow, so you're saying it tripled in 30 days.
That's exactly right. And you know what else happened the next month, Matt? More than $12 billion traded in Bitcoin futures. That's more than $10.2 billion flowing into Bitcoin futures in just 2 months. Keep in mind, Matt, Bitcoin futures in 2017 barely existed. But Bitcoin futures aren't the only thing sending Bitcoin's price skyrocketing. Hedge funds are also loading up on Bitcoin thanks to its massive returns. In fact, one of the top performing hedge funds of 2019 has over half their portfolio in Bitcoin, while the average hedge fund returned 5.7% in the first half of 2019. This Bitcoin-heavy hedge fund returned a whopping 46%.
Wow, so 46% in 6 months. Those types of returns are just unheard of in the hedge fund space.
That's right, Matt. Big institutional money is just flowing into Bitcoin. But listen, Bitcoin is not the only cryptocurrency benefiting from this huge influx of money. These are special coins called specific use coins, Matt, that are producing rare and exceptional returns. Specific use coins are very similar to Bitcoin. Now, the main difference here is that they are much smaller than Bitcoin, and they were created for a very specific technological purpose. Take Agricia. Agricia is a specific use coin used for website development. Its market cap is much, much smaller than Bitcoin. But just take a look at this chart of Agricia from March to July of 2019. Agricia shot up 23,032%, turning a $500 investment into $115,000 in just 4 months. And that's just one specific use coin, Matt.
Right, that sounds pretty unique. Like if people didn't know about it, they just missed the boat.
Actually, Matt, here's the good news. There are thousands of these. Take Atlantis Blue Digital Token. This is a specific use coin used in mining operations. Now, look at the chart here. Atlantis Blue Digital Token increased 15,572% from April to June. That's like turning $500 into $77,000 in just 2 months. Or take Agave coin. This specific use coin is used in agave production. It increased 14,277% from January to August, turning $500 into $71,000 in just 8 months. Or take XMAX, another specific use coin. Get this. In just 7 days, Matt, XMAX increased 1,675%. That's like turning $500 into $8,375 in just a week.
Wow, $8,000 in a week is phenomenal.
It sure is. But XMAX wasn't alone, Matt. Take a look at Themis. This coin went straight up over the course of 4 days, giving folks a 572% return. That's almost 7 times your money in just 4 days. And then there's Clipper coin. Clipper Coin, Matt, gave investors a quick, easy 936% return in just 2 days, turning $500 into $4,680 in just 48 hours. And then there's Commerce Data Connections. This coin shot up 1,262% in just 3 days, turning $500, Matt, into $6,300 in under 72 hours.
Wow, that's a huge return and vast too. Michael, I can't think of any investment that's done that.
That's because there is no other investment giving you these kinds of returns, Matt. But the question is, why now? Why are Bitcoin and these specific use coins exploding in value? Well, Matt, the answer is simple. There's a little-known pattern behind every technological breakthrough to ever exist. The pattern has 3 stages. The first stage, Matt, is the early adopter stage. This is the stage where almost nobody knows the technology exists outside of a few insiders. It's so brand new, it's barely even a concept. This was the internet back in the days when it was only used by the government and universities, or cell phones back in the 1980s.
Or like Bitcoin back in 2010.
Exactly, Matt. The second stage of any technology is the massive consolidation stage. This is where the market contracts and low-performing competitors start going under or get acquired. In this stage, you always see massive price declines. For example, you might remember the dot-com boom of the late 1990s. Tech stocks in the NASDAQ were going crazy. The market was ripe for massive consolidation. That's why the NASDAQ came tumbling down in the early 2000s. But then, after consolidation, comes the third stage, the expansion stage. In the expansion stage, you start to see massive amounts of money flow into the industry, usually from big banks and other smart money investors. This is exactly what happened after the dot-com consolidation. Here, let's take a look at the chart of the NASDAQ. So you see the dot-com boom here.
These investors know this, and they take advantage of these up and down cycles. And then when these things go down, and there's still a lot of value in it, they buy, wait for it to go up, and they make a killing when the big money comes in. That's where Bitcoin has been. The big money started coming in that, I think, last year. So they know that it's getting ready to go down and come back again in a big way.
That's stage 1. Then you see the massive consolidation right here. That's stage 2. But what happens immediately after is the expansion stage. You see tons of money flowing in like never before, creating unprecedented wealth. Matt, this is the phase that creates billionaires.
Which is incredibly exciting. Michael, if you wouldn't mind, could you give us some examples?
Sure. Let's start with Bill Gates. He was worth $315 million in 1986, but after the home computers and Microsoft entered their expansion phase, Bill Gates' net worth skyrocketed to over $85 billion. That means more than 99% of his wealth came from the expansion stage of computers. Or take Jeff Bezos, currently the richest man in the world. In Amazon's early days in 1998, his net worth was $1.6 billion. You know, not bad. But then online shopping and delivery entered into its expansion phase in the 2000s. And now his net worth is over $113 billion.
Well, before his recent divorce.
That's for sure. But again, over 99% of Jeff Bezos' wealth came after the expansion stage of online shopping and delivery. Or take visionary genius Steve Jobs. In 1978, his net worth was over $250 million. At the time of his death, Jobs was worth over $11 billion. That's a 44 times increase during the expansion phase. As you can see, more than 99% of the richest people in the world's wealth came from the expansion phase. And now with Bitcoin going into the expansion phase...
Right, you're saying we're going to see the next Bill Gates, the next Steve Jobs, the next Jeff Bezos.
That's exactly right, Matt. That's why Bitcoin shot up more than 334% in 2019. It's at the very beginning of its expansion phase. Money is flowing into Bitcoin like never before, and by all accounts, it looks like it's far from over. But it's not just Bitcoin benefiting from the expansion phase, Matt. Many of the other specific use coins are exploding in value as well. Just look at some of these rare and extraordinary returns like Block CDN. Block CDN increased 3,200.
We're going to end it there. I'll take a look at this. I may record some more of it, but really not necessary. We're going to get through this and go from there. What is key to this is we're getting into the expansion stage. All these experts that I'm listening to are saying that we're getting into expansion stage by the end of this year and next year for sure, and the following year. So get ready, here it comes.